Alright, welcome back. Alright, so we're on the slide of boiling point. So boiling point, like I said, of a liquid, temperature which the saturated vapor pressure equal to atmospheric. So atmospheric is 760 millimeters of mercury. So therefore, if the atmospheric pressure changes, so if atmospheric pressure gets lower, then the boiling point will get lower. If it gets higher, then the boiling point will get higher. So volatile agents with lower boiling points are more susceptible to variations than agents with higher. We're mainly talking about DES here. When in doubt, DES fluorine. The red herring here. So boiling point, like mentioned earlier, saturated vapor pressure is 669, close to the 760. That's at 20 Celsius. Its boiling point is 23 degrees Celsius, so around 73 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's pretty close to the temperature of an OR room. Even out for adults, because the ortho case is pretty chilly in there, so it's probably 65. But if you used as, like for kids, those rooms are a little bit warmer. Also, if you're using it when you do like your charity in the jungle, in Nicaragua, something like that, very hot environment, under consideration. So boiling points of our volatile agents, lowest to highest, kind of conversely of the vapor pressures. So DES had the highest vapor pressure, therefore has the lowest boiling point because it's closest to there. So isoflurane comes in second with the silver at 49 degrees Celsius. In sivo trails a little bit behind with 58.5 degrees Celsius. Know the relationships between one and another, not necessarily the specific numbers, but the relationship between each of the gases. So vaporization process converting a liquid, solid or liquid into a vapor. So we need heat. So we need energy to do this. So the latent heat of vaporization is the technical term for the energy that's required to vaporize a specific liquid. So it's different for SIVO than it is for ISO than it is for DES. So heat used to transform. So some examples. Probably you wouldn't use it, but I've seen it used in urgent care. So ethyl chloride, how it works. So before you want to like suture someone up here for a little scratch. So topical anesthetic. So it's a liquid, so it's pressurized. Keep the molecules together. When you spray it on the skin, it evaporates. So for it to evaporate, it takes the heat from the skin to convert from the liquid to the vapor. And when it does that, the skin cools down. So that is kind of how it gives the anesthetic effect, is that cooling, impairing the conduction of the nerves. So some examples. So when you use energy, form of heat, liquid to vapor, requires kinetic energy, temperature. Once it's done, unless you have a consistent heat source, then the cooling occurs, the vapor that's left returns to the liquid state. So that's why these things are designed, are temperature controlled. Everything is electronic now. To take all those variables into consideration and to control them, to adjust the flow. All that is done automatically now. So how are the vaporizers classified? How do we classify them? So the variable bypass, so bypass, kind of figure out how that is. So fresh gas flow from the flow meter enters the inlet of the turned on vaporizer. You have concentration calibrated, so the concentration percent. Flow dial splits it. I could draw, so would draw better. But then the flow over, kind of a variation of that too. So we have kind of liquid. So in this picture perfect drawing, like, I don't know how you won't be able to understand it after seeing this. So vapor pressure is the dots, so that's the volatile anesthetic, and the X is the flow over gas. So by variable bypass is located around here is we're splitting the ratio, and depending on how much you want to deliver is how much is split. So your fresh gas flow comes up here and some other is diverted down into here. So the X's picks up the dots, they come out here and then they join up together for the concentration that you want to deliver to put your patient to sleep. They are temperature compensated, again, because we don't want to control how much is in the vapor state the fresh gas flow is carrying away, and agent specific. So most of you use compensator just for changes. We change in the splitting ratio. So it's how much of the fresh gas flow is the bypass. So cooling the vaporizers, so there's thermal pieces in there. There's a bimetallic strip, and there's wicks to create more contact with the surface and the liquid. So directs more of the carrier to be sent to the vaporizer chamber to generate more vapor. The vaporizer is too warm, so we have too much vapor. We have less carrier gas flow, so there's less uptake to keep that balance. So CEVO ISO is designed temperature between 15 and 35 degrees Celsius. Now DES is different, and obviously it's different because its boiling point is 23, so we would not want to fluctuate below and above, or below, above, below, and above. We'd have serious problems there. So DES temperature is 39 degrees, much higher than the boiling point of DES. So we have the picture, the bimetallic strip, and the temperature control in the wick. We're on slide 30 here. Picture the vaporizer design, in case you ever want to build one yourself, is there, or General Electric builds these machines, so you can go to General Electric to get the schematic if you are diehard, really want to know. So CEVO and ISO need to be carried through, so they need a little help, they need a little push, a little social anxiety disorder, just a little push, and DES needs to be held back. So vaporizers allow a safe amount to be delivered to the patient. Because then, if you do like the mathematics here as we go through, CEVO, you can make that 22% vapor, a little much. ISO 32%, and DES 88%. You could get, so only 12% oxygen, 88% DES, so I mean, death in a hurry. So that's why it's important they work correctly. Do we really want to deliver this? I mean, that's rhetorical. So specific heat, important to have this. I mean, specific heat, just required for the specific agent. How much heat is required? Keep stable temperature. Want good materials, because you want the thermal conductivity. Because everything in anesthesia is about control, and I want it now. That's kind of the personality that gets attracted to this game. So thermal conductivity, measure the speed which heat flows through a substance. We talked about conductivity before, and that electrifying, exciting lecture on electricity, which we can always go over again at any time. High thermal conductivity, better heat that's conducted. Desirable in vaporizer, thermal stabilization, so we use metals to minimize the temperature change in the vaporizers in use. I mentioned earlier they use wicks to quickly replace heat that is lost. Wicks are in contact with the metal portion of the vaporizer. So visualization of it, the next one. Alright, so vaporizers and the altitude. So this is important like for your boards, like in a couple of years from now. So I'm going to end right here and start a new video on that. Segue.